Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about the Azure accounts receivable and Azure account payable report. There's a age by, and you have the option like trans date, due date, document date. I want to talk about the differences between these three dates, because the naming of this trans date is kind of confusing. In your document posting or on the documents, you have the order date, you have document date, you have posting date, and you have a bunch of other dates. And also you have the due date. So if you are posting a document, usually when you create a document, the order date, document date, posting date, and the work date, they are populated with the work date, same as a work date. And then you can change the date to other dates if required. But on the age account payable report or age accounts receivable report, you see there's an option which says trans date. So what date is this date is? Actually, this trans date is the posting date of your document. It usually means the posting of the invoice. So if you're processing a sales order, which means the posting of the sales invoice, not the posting of the sales shipment. Because for your financial reports, it's looking at the financial side. It's not looking at the inventory side. So that's why it's not looking at the movement of the inventory. It's looking at the actually invoicing, which generate the value entries and the general ledger entries. So this trans date means the posting date of your invoice. If it's a purchase order, it's the posting date of the purchase invoice. If it's a sales order, it's a posting date of the sales invoice. But on the Azure accounts receivable, this is for the sales side, so it's the posting date of the sales invoice. If you are looking at the Azure accounts payable, then this trans date on that report, because on the account payable report, you also see the trans date. So if you look at the Azure account payable, you also have this option trans date, but this is look at the posting date of the purchase invoice. Okay, so then if we go back to this Azure account receivable report. So because we can use both report, they have these three options on both report. And the trans date is look at how old, if the aging after you post the sales invoice in this Azure accounts receivable report. And the due date, because on the document, the due date is a document date plus your payment terms. This accounts receivable report is looking at the customer payment terms. So it's the document date plus the payment terms on the customer card. So if you use this due date as an age by, then it will look at how old, if the aging after the payment is due. Okay, and if you use the document date, so the document date, if this sometimes people is confused by the trans date and the document date, because if we say the trans date is a posting date, and the document date usually change according to when you change the posting date, the document date changed. So if we go to a sales order, and if you change the posting date, for example, when you post the sales invoice, if you change the posting date, so right now I have the document date November the 30th and the posting date November the 20th. Let's change this to something else. Let's change this to posting date to November 25th. Then you see after I change the posting date, the document date changed as well. So out of the box, when you change the posting date, the document date changed. So we see some customers, they even hide the document date on the document header, the sales document header or purchase document header, because they thought when they change the posting date, the document date is always changed accordingly. There's no point for them to make changes on the document date, so they just hide this field. If that's the case, then no matter on the Azure account payable report or Azure account receivable report, then the posting, the trans date, the result when you filter the aging by the trans date and document date, we will have the same result. So if we go back to the age account receivable report, then you could see if that's the case, because the document, when you change the posting date, the document date is always changed on the document header. Then the trans date and the document date will have the same result, right? When you age by these 2 dates, that's correct. But just another thing is like even when you change the posting date, the document date change accordingly. But if you still make this field visible, then you still can. After that change happened, you can still update the document date to another date, and then it does not affect the posting date. So these 2 dates can be different. In which situation, like you will have these 2 days different, it's really according to your business, right? So for example, if you have a vendor, overseas vendor, and they send you the invoice, they're shipping their products overseas to you, and when you create it, so you have to wait until you receive the products before you invoice your purchase invoice, right? And if this is a purchase order, and then the document date, and let's say this is a purchase order, and you have document date, you have order date, and they can be different date. So let's say this is the purchase order, and if you use the order date to be the date, like when you place the order to your vendor, let's record that, and then you can use the document date for your financial purpose. This is like to start the calculation of the due date, right? So to start the calculation of the due date, let's say you have the overseas vendor and you place order on January 30th, and then you invoice it. So you invoice it until you receive the products. Maybe you invoice it and it's already today's date. Then you invoice today's date, you received the products, and you have to do your invoicing. So then you change your posting date, right? When you change your posting date, the document date change accordingly. Then these dates are the same, right? But then you want to invoice the post a purchase invoice today, you change the posting date and the document date change accordingly. But if, let's say, you want to age that payable, your payable to earlier or later, you don't want it to be you don't want to record it the same as the actually the date when you post this invoice. There could be some other reasons, like you have to age your purchase your vendor payment differently, and you want the document date to be a different date. So then, because that due date calculation start from that, then you may want to change this to be a different date, because this is the posting date of your invoice. You invoice the vendor today, but then you wanted to age your payable to be different, either earlier or later. Then you can change the document date to a different date. So you want to start calculating the due date from a later date, not the date you invoice the vendor. Then you can change the document date to a different date, like March the 20th. Then your due date will be calculated accordingly based on you see this date. When you change this, then your due date will change according to the terms of your vendor payment. But this one did not change. The reason it did not change could be, let's take a look of this vendor payment terms. It's a current month. That's why it did not change, right? And let's say if you are using the 30 days here for the vendor payment terms, then when you change this document date, that will change. So it really depends on your business scenario. So like we can change this to 15. Let's see this due date change when I change this. So you just want the due date to be different than the actual invoice posting date. The due date to be calculated, starting date for the due date to be calculated differently. Then you can change the document date, because that will drive your due date to calculate based on the payment terms of the vendor. So the due date plus the document date plus the payment terms equals to the due date. So yeah, so if you don't want the document date to be different, you want it to always change with the posting, then it doesn't matter. But if the document date and the posting date, they are different because you have some business scenario, then you want to calculate the due date starting point to be differently than the invoice posting date, then you can have a different date on your document date. And if that's the case, when you look at your Azure account payable or Azure account receivable report, then the result for the trans date and the document date, if you filter by those two different dates, then you will see different results. That's why you have 3 options, right? So because some scenarios, your document date could be different than the actual invoice posting date. That's why you have different options. But most scenarios, then you will run the Azure accounts receivable or Azure account payable report by the trans date. That's a posting date of your invoice. That's the most common. That's the most common option when you run the Azure account receivable or Azure account payable report. Okay, so that's all I want to explain today. Thank you so much for watching this YouTube video. I hope to see you guys again next time.